Hey, this is Dave.
Matt.
And Zap.
With the Old Dirty Basement Podcast, here with special guest, Earl David Reed. How's it going, Earl?
Good. How you guys doing? All right?
Awesome. Doing good.
Enjoying this beautiful weather we're having here.
Yeah, for sure.
That's something.
Yeah.
So, Earl, yeah, man, big fan of you, man. I've seen you many times. I have a cool story with your stand-up. Years ago, my mom got tickets to a show, and her and my dad at the time were probably in their like mid-60s, and sat us right up front. And just because she knew my dad would be a nice little target for you, and you had a heck of a time with my dad up front, man. It was great, and like it's just like one of the first memories I have of seeing like a live stand-up show. So that's like
I'll tell you what, it's stand-ups can become a little bit dangerous nowadays. With content and people's reaction, and like now, like people always say, "What do you do?" And I say, "I'm not really picking on you. You're giving me something, and I'm working with it." Okay. Right. That's how I usually do it. I'm not going to sit there and go, "Hey, you're stupid, you're ugly," or whatever. You give me something and then I work with it. Sometimes people interpret that to be kind of a funky thing, but now, now you get people that get pissed off and yell. And I haven't had any issues yet. Not to say that there wouldn't be down the road.
Cool. Zab, you got a question?
Well, no. In fact, so much of this, what we just said makes so much sense, right? So everybody is super sensitive these days, like uber ultra sensitive. And I remember seeing you live as well, not unlike Dave and his family. I guess my question is, what got you into the brand or style of comedy that you do, where you basically, and look, it's genius, it's hilarious, where you just go, you will pick apart every member of that audience and you'll do it all night. Shit, you'll do it 3 or 4 times a piece. You just don't stop. Like, why that brand versus the, I don't know, whatever kind of other humor or, just abstract,
like a monologist
comedy
sort of thing. Yeah. I'll tell you exactly. I'll tell you what happened. Back in the day with the comedy clubs. Now, if you go to a comedy club, it's probably Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Back in the day, there were comedy club franchises, Funny Bone being one of them. And they had a Wednesday night show, which is an open mic night. Now, as the headliner, I would have to fly in at the end of the open mic night. I'd have to do about 10 minutes so those people could see what they would see on the weekend if they came to the weekend. So I had the Wednesday show, the Thursday show, 2 Friday, 3 Saturday, and 1 Sunday.
God.
Okay.
God.
And by the time you got to the third show Saturday, you couldn't remember what you even said in any of the other shows. So I remember that whole week I was there. I was in St. Louis, and the feature, I was watching him, and I watched him every night go step by step through the same thing. And then halfway through the week, I was doing the same thing. But then towards the weekend, I was like, you know what? I've been doing this long enough. Let me just see where it goes and what it takes. A lot of people can't do that sort of a thing. So I look at it as kind of a blessing. But I think out of the fact that I was so bored with just seeing the same thing over and over again, that's the method that I took, which is really good, because that's why people come back to see me, because it's not going to be the same. It's not going to be the same thing over and over.
Right.
No, it's awesome, man. Really, like your style, the way that you're just able to essentially roast everyone and anyone in that audience. Man, my hat goes off to you. That's impressive. Absolutely impressive.
Well, I'm glad you guys like it and glad you came out, because I know comedy is one of these things now where it just seems like there's so many people doing comedy. If you go on your Reels or your TikTok or anything, you'll get a bag all over the place. But it doesn't beat seeing it live. Live is the best thing. It's just we've become so used to watching everything on our phones. When you go to perform it live, you have to tell the audience, you're not allowed to tape this show. Performing one time, and the guy in the theater, the guy had his phone and he was taping. I go, "What are you doing?" He's going, "I'm taping the show." And I go, "Dude, why do you need to tape the show? You're here."
Yeah.
Right.
It's better than actually see, but we can't really enjoy stuff unless we look at it through our phones. So I'm going, "Dude, you know what? You're taking a whole element of live." He goes, "Well, I wanted to record it for my friend who couldn't make it tonight." And I said, "Well, you ask all these other people that paid $35 a ticket if it's okay that your friend gets to look at your bootleg copy." Okay. Right. And it doesn't bother me that much, but I only because I like to know what's going out there. I don't want someone's raw, idea of what I do out there, And so that's why I have a problem with that. But live is the best way. You got to see it live.
100%.
Much like a concert, like you go to a music concert and these people are recording on their phones. It's like nothing beats live music. And like you said, nothing beats live comedy. When I came over that night, I was blown away about the electricity in the room And I was like, this is in Harrisburg, and we're seeing a comedy show like at this level. Like I was really blown away that night when I went. That was one of the first live comedy shows that I've ever went to, and it was very impressive.
I'm glad you guys like it. And the weird thing about it too is, you know, I think like when you mentioned with music and people recording it with music, you know, it's kind of different because, okay, all right, everyone will hear Aerosmith sing Dream On for 1,000 times in a row. They sing along to it. Matter of fact, if you sing the wrong words, people will go crazy with it. Comedy's a wholly different thing. You know, I mean, it takes a while to craft a certain of an act. And that's why when you see guys that have these catchphrases, you know, people are yelling out their catchphrases all the time because that's what they get used to. The one thing I like is like what the Las Vegas Journal Review wrote about me. And they said, what did it say? Oh, no costumes, no eating fire, just one guy up there making you laugh your face off. And what I like about the comedy for me is like, I walk out, if you've never seen me before, you have no idea what direction I'm going in. If I walk out there in some kind of a costume or I bring a bag with me, now everyone's focused on the bag and what I'm going to pull out of the bag. So I still like it in that pure form.
Yeah, 100%. I still look at those. It's amazing. We were talking about this at one point recently. The people at a comedy show, at a concert, you name it. Who is going to look back? So much shit is recorded, and I promise you, you're not going to look back on your phone and watch what you recorded. You are wasting your own fucking time. It's not going to happen.
True.
Well, a lot of comedians now, like I think they take the phones sometimes, and you got to put them in like a container, and you're not allowed to take them into the shows, and like they're trying to cut just for sitting and experiencing something.
I don't know what level you have to be at to make that happen. Because I know like a Chappelle or something does that. I mean, you know, I'm going to get like a fuck you if I say, yeah, put your phone in a bag. But, you know, I just don't understand how we've gotten to that point. But then there's a lot of comedy out there, and you can see little clips of it here and there and stuff. But, you know, and the only thing about it is, even though there's a lot of it out there, there's a lot of bad out there. And, you know, it's hard enough to get people to come out live. It's the weirdest thing. I went to an open mic night one night at the Comedy Zone. I actually stopped there because I was doing a show and I wanted to talk to the owner about a show I was doing coming up. And they had open mic night and 47 comics going up. Okay.
Wow. Jesus.
I don't want to sit. I wouldn't want to sit through 47 of the top 100 comics. Right. Okay.
Long evening.
And then 47 of people who got, which is really weird. Comedy is the only business where you get on stage once you can call yourself a comedian. Meanwhile, if I put a Band-Aid on you, you're still not a doctor,
right?
You know, and it's one of these things that people do. So they were going up there and some people were just eating it. So I remember saying to the owner, I was going, you know, I appreciate the open mic night thing because, you know, everyone gets started there, but you still have to have quality control. Maybe you take a couple of people aside and go, hey, you know what? You're not quite ready yet. Work on it and come back. You know, and because there's open mic doesn't mean you can get up there and you know, and play your armpit and wonder why people aren't clapping for you.
Yeah, responding to it.
God damn, that's funny.
Yeah, I got a question for you, Earl. A lot of our viewers or listeners, I guess listeners would know your name from 105.7, The X, with the Nipsey, Earl, Jen Shade. Before that, where were you at really, like in your career, and what brought you in, or like who inspired you to be a comedian?
Well, here's the thing. It's funny you mentioned that because I was a comedian long before I was a radio personality. Radio is one of these jobs that everyone wants to let you know how good it is. If you stand around with a bunch of radio people, they will tell you about the greatest job they used to have. You know, that's how it always works with them. It's always that way. And I've conned Cumulus, I've conned iHeart, Citadel into believing that I know how to do radio. And I've taken 25 years of their money. And I can honestly tell you that I'm not the best radio person out there. Here's the thing. Back in the day, most shows had three people. They had the lead guy. They had the what would you call like the news woman? I don't know what the lady, token lady now. And the comedian. And back in the day, the show was from 5 to 9. The comedian came in at 5 o'clock. He went home at 9. His joke was just his job was just to make the show funny. Right. Now, as we progress and everything starts to consolidate and everything, you know, I had to learn how to run the board, all these other things, and a lot of it. So it helped me because I built an audience with my comedy through the radio, but it also hurt me too, because what happens is when I'm on the radio, there's no way that you're going to get an interpretation of what my performance is like by listening to me on the radio. I mean, I come up with a couple of cute quips and everything, but most people listening going, well, how's that going to fill an hour?
Right.
You know? So, you know, it hurts you to a certain degree. And I mean, at this point, even in this area, in the PA area, and I go all over the place, all over the country, even in the PA area, you know, it's like people are going, I did a show, Eichelberger Performance Arts Center. That was packed. That was great. Allen Theater. That was packed. I've still had people come to me after those shows and go, hey, man, this is the first time I've ever seen you. Okay. And I've been doing it in this area for about, I don't know, 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
Now, to get back to the radio thing, it was like, you know, I enjoyed my time there. If I regret anything, I was there for 15 years on the X, and I've done radio in different places. But if I regret anything, I believe I stayed too long because within the last 5 years of my 15, that's when I started to get a lot of offers and a lot of things for people to do stuff. And I had to turn it down. And then I got to a point where I sat there one day and I was like, you know, and no one gives a shit that I'm turning this down. I mean, I wasn't looking for a pat on the back or any appreciation, but they didn't care, you know? And so I left there. I went up to Rochester for like a year and a half because a friend of mine that used to do mornings there when I was a young buck in radio, still doing mornings in the 70s, for God's sake.
Oh, wow.
It's wake up in the morning with so-and-so, you know. Well, after 70, you know, it's not the name of the show. Wake up's a challenge, you know.
Right.
So it was like, so I did that for a while, and I came back and I was like, you know, I'm a comedian. I just met with a couple of people, and they're like, you know, we have a plan. We have a couple of things that we're going to do, and in a little bit, I'll tell you where my schedule is if you want to catch it. But
absolutely.
But yeah, the radio thing was great, and I still have people come up to me say, you know, we miss you on the X, and I got to tell you, come this August will be 3 years that I was gone already.
Oh, wow.
You know,
time flies.
and then and I couldn't imagine how long that was, but people were coming up saying, oh, you know, we miss you on X, and I feel like William Shatner. You know, it's like, look, you know, it's like I just did this as a lark. Okay.
Like I was,
but it's still flattering, and people still come out and enjoy it, so that's cool.
That's awesome.
And who inspired you when you were younger? Was there anything that like clicked? Like I want to be like this guy up in front of people, making people laugh, or was it something you just grew into
before he
yourself?
was Bill Cosby? Bill Cosby was the guy. If you were growing up in the time that I was growing up, everyone had his comedy album. Bill Cosby Right, it was called. Everyone had that album, and it was one of those things that you listen to. So I had listened to that too, but my favorite was I like old school. I used to like, I know you have the roast that you can see now that they roast everybody, you know, under the sun. I watched the roast of Larry, the cable guy, the other night, and I was like, okay, well, there you go. But I watched the old school ones, you know, like Dean Martin roast.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and I always tell people, you want to see how it originated, go back and listen to them. Jokes are a little corny, a little outdated, but you got to remember back then you couldn't say nothing. Yeah. So some of the stuff that they were bringing up was shocking and surprising. You know, there's a what was it? Dean Martin picked up Sammy Davis Jr. and says, "I like to thank the NAACP for this award." You know, and you know, because he was so short. And I mean, you might be able to do it today, but you know, people would freak out. So I like that. Don Rickles is definitely my favorite. Great Don Rickles story. I got a picture of. I got two stories. First of all, I'll tell you the one that was the original one. I was performing in Las Vegas at the Riviera Hotel, which is not even there anymore. Mm-hmm. And I was doing this show and I was performing and it was going really great. So afterwards, the club owner, the guy that runs the club, says to me, he's a big Italian guy. He's like, look, I want to see you in my office after the show. You know, now the day before, it was a Friday. So the day before, the Las Vegas Journal Review, which whatever it is, it wrote an article saying that they came out and they saw me. And they put me as one of the things to see in Vegas, one of the acts to see in Vegas, which, you know, there's a lot of shit going on in Vegas. So the fact that they even mentioned,
man, that's awesome.
is something else. And they said, Earl David Reed, come out there. Earl David Reed is an urban style Don Rickles. Okay. And I was like, my agent at the time says, you know, that's flattering to be mentioned in the same name as some other person. Now, look, I'm not that guy, you know, but I really admired him in his work. So that Saturday night, it was strange because the owner was said, "Hey, I want to meet you in the office." And oh, by the way, the guy that was running the club at that time, who makes it even more scarier, is his name was Steve Sharippa. And Steve Sharippa was one of the guys from The Sopranos. He played Bobby from The Sopranos. He's running the comedy club. So it's just really weird how it all worked out. So he's like, yeah, I want you to come back. I go back in the office and I'm sitting there, and I walk in there, and Don Rickles is reading a newspaper. He's got it up over his face.
No shit.
So he obviously sees me come in, and he goes, oh my goodness, an urban style, Don Rickles, he's saying. And then he and he says, Mr. Reed, this is Don Rickles. He pulls the paper down. He goes, oh my God, he's black. He says, and he goes, he says, I just kidding. So he goes up and he gives me a hug. And after he gives me a hug, he goes like this. He's patting himself down, checking for his wallet. Okay, now just funny. I mean, just so funny. But the newest one is he was coming to perform at the Sands, and I guess at Allentown up there. They have the Sands Hotel. So I went there, and next thing I was in the front row, and he called me up on stage. Nipsey and I had went to the show, and Nipsey recorded me up on stage with him and stuff. And he goes, "What just happened here?" And I was like, man, it was just great because it was legendary. This is right before he died, because I had seen him a couple of times, but this time he was sitting down in like a recliner. They ran some footage of him, and while it was dark, they walked him out there, and he sat in this recliner and stuff. So he's a pretty big influence. When you look out today, I think the top three today, Chappelle, Chris Rock, and Bill Burr, I think is really good. Bill Burr is one of these guys that's saying what he needs to say, and for some reason, no one's getting mad at him. But it's funny.
Yeah.
So Matt you mentioned Bill Cosby. Matt, now's the time to try it out. This guy's a professional. Hit him with your Bill Cosby once. Hear it, see what he thinks.
No, this is like being home for the holidays.
That's about it.
Yeah, go ahead. No,
What gonna get the jello pudding?
not bad.
That ain't bad.
You got to do
it's terrible. It's terrible, but these guys, it's funny.
Oh my God,
it's funny.
No, but yeah,
I think everybody has one good impression that they can do.
Yeah.
But that's good. You can take that, but that'll work.
You just
that'll
said good.
Well, he said one. Was that it?
I think so.
That was the one.
That's your one.
Okay.
Yeah. I just have one other question I wanted to ask you. So you do comedy, like you said, all over the country. So do you find that, like, when you go in and you'll work the crowd and like pick people out, do you kind of have an idea in your head of what you're going to go with based on individuals, or is that just all like off the top of your head? And then also, do you have to change it up based on the crowd and where you're at? And I guess people are different everywhere. Is everybody pretty much the same? Can you do the same comedy?
It's really weird because, like when you go to some of these crowds now, and some of these audiences and stuff, I think everyone wants to laugh. I think everyone is ready to laugh. You go to a comedy club now. Comedy clubs are one of the few things where people go, they'll call up the comedy club and they'll say, hey, I don't know, Earl David Reed is performing this week. And they go, oh, is he any good? And like the club books people that aren't good. Like there's a good week and there's a bad week. It's like going to the restaurant and going, oh yeah, we want to try our steak. Well, is the steak any good? No, it's not good at all. We're trying to push the steak. It's like it's the strangest thing. But I think people are basically the same. I haven't, like I said, the way I perform, if you see my show, it's funny, and then it's motivating, and then you'll even cry at one point, and then it's funny again. So it takes you the whole gamut of everything, because basically my act is like who I am. And that's why I never really get tired of it, because, I know what I'm capable of doing it. And I don't consider myself a great joke writer at all. I think I'm more of an entertainer than anything else. I'm a piano away from being, the dueling pianos, basically,
Right.
Yeah, I did read some things that says about your improv, like you're very improvisation, like you can read an audience, read a crowd, and you really bring that into your comedy routine, which is pretty cool.
Well, it's funny because when it comes to these crowds now, and I always tell other comedians too, it's like you get an act, okay? First of all, you get 10 minutes to 15 minutes so you can host the show. And then you get maybe 30 minutes so you can feature the show. You work up to an hour to be a headliner, and then, and that's how it all seems to work. But I always tell people, it's funny. It's not about the joke. It's about knowing what audience could take what joke. In other words, let's say you have 50 jokes. Okay. Some people will just go out and no matter what the audience is, they'll ram those 50 down their throat. Okay. Whereas I'd say, okay, I know what I'm going to say and I have this in my mind. And then I just give them what they'll take, you know, because sometimes, you know, maybe the audience doesn't want all 50. Maybe they'll take your 30, you know. Mm-hmm. And so it's about reading the audience and seeing how much they can take. But you know, and I've known comedians that just get up there and just F word it the whole time, and that seems to be the thing. So it's like, well, you know.
Yeah, so it's amazing you should say that. I'm thinking this whole time, you know, as you know have spent so much time in Pennsylvania, you certainly recognize, at least from a general, I don't know, dare I say, a political background, Pennsylvania is a T, right? So the middle up to the left and to the right is you know, conservative, but then you have Philly and Pittsburgh, which is, you know, more the Democratic, or like the basically like liberal versus, you know, conservative. So when you talk about reading an audience, you're not going to go to bumblefuck central Pennsylvania, upper, you know, northern central Pennsylvania, and have the same jokes as you otherwise would in, let's say, a Philly or a Pittsburgh, or maybe even an Allentown. Question mark.
You might be able to. It just depends on what your delivery is. Like, first of all, when it comes to politics, I really don't do politics. It's so bad now that if you go to a theater show to see me, I was at the Palladium in Clearwater, Florida, and they had my name and the whole thing and all this stuff and everything. And then they had a little asterisk up there, and in the corner of the asterisk, which I asked them to put it said no politics. Okay, because a lot of people are going, well, I don't want to go there and see my favorite candidate get bashed or my favorite president or whatever get bashed. And it's so weird because, you know, there was a time in this country, if you go all the way back to like, was it Will Rogers and where they lampooned politicians in politics and everything. And Chevy Chase falling down the stairs in the original Saturday Night Live as Gerald Ford, you know, and things, you know, and now, you know, I don't know how we got all so sensitive about people who don't even know you're alive. I don't understand that. It's almost worse than sports teams.
Good point.
You know?
Very good point.
Crazy. Yeah, so I noticed on Instagram you follow Stone Saunders. I guess you have a relation with him or his dad, maybe friends. And we're all three McDevitt alumni and graduates.
Oh, look at you. Yeah.
Yeah, we actually live like 5 minutes from there. So looks like a promising quarterback. Looks like he could turn into something. Like, to switch gears here, just talk about that.
Well, I'll tell you what. Here's the interesting thing about Stone Saunders and Steve Saunders and Emily and just the whole family is just amazing. I met Steve a long time ago. I used to live in Elizabethtown when I first came here, and he used to run Elizabethtown Fitness long before he got caught up in the power trains, the training areas that are around here, up and down the East Coast too, by the way. You know, he just finished his gig, strength and conditioning coach for the Ravens. But I met him a long time ago, and I remember it was the weirdest thing. I remember Steve coming into the gym and Emily coming into the gym and carrying like Stone in a basket. He was like in this little basket because he was a baby. It never made me feel older than anything. If I known that, I would have worn my Bishop McDevitt state champion shirt. I'm a big fan now. You know, because I was you know, I went to the state game.
I was there, yeah.
And I remember saying to him before, he goes, Earl, you're going to come to my game. I go, when is it? He goes, it's December 4th. I said, it's cold in December. I said, I'll tell you what, I'll show up. But can you throw some touchdown passes quick so we can get out of there? Because I don't want to freeze. So I'm there all overdressed and everything. First play off a scrimmage across the middle to Rico Scott, touchdown. Okay. So, but he's really talented. I can't think of a better position for a kid to be in, to have a father like Steve that knows the sport, knows it from the coaching angle, the playing angle, the whole thing. He knows how that whole thing works. I mean, think of some of these kids that you see that are really, really good, that just have like everyday parents and don't know how to deal with this or who to talk to or have it to keep your head on straight. You know, and I had lunch with Steve just last week, and he mentioned that there's a couple of kids that he knows that were from the team that, you know, he tries to mentor them and everything because their parents, nothing to disrespect their parents, they don't have the experience to know. It's like, okay, you have this kid and he's your son. And then next thing you know, you have like 10 Division I schools that want him. And, you know, you have to decipher and sift through all of that, you know?
Right.
So, but when Stone announces his college day, He invited me to that, so that's going to be fun.
That's awesome.
Do you have inside info on that? Maybe
anything on the air here?
Yeah.
Well, he's talked to me, and he told me, you got to remember too. You're talking to this kid. He's got all these offers. Okay, he
16,
has
right?
101 touchdown passes. Okay, he has broken the school record. He's only a sophomore.
That's crazy.
Which means if he throws 100-pound touchdown passes in the next 2 years, no one's catching 200. So it's like so you got to remember he's a kid. He don't even drive. Right. So it's like you got to remember that you're dealing with the kid here. And we talk back and forth on the Instagram all the time, just kind of chit chatting, because he'll tell me he's going to visit a school. He just came back from visiting Kentucky. Okay. And so he's all over the place. And but what I like about him is not only is he's laid back, he gets caught up in the moment in the game, but he's not a douchebag. His family's really good and supportive. And they came out to see me every year when I play the Allen Theater. The whole family always comes out, and we always get like a big family picture with it. So
that's awesome.
He's amazing. But I mean, there's other people on that, like Rico Scott is good.
I know
he's a junior.
Yeah,
and they both went down to take a visit to Clemson together. And it's just interesting to see. I've never known anybody at a high school sport at this level. So I'm kind of living vicariously through all of this, because I don't, I went to the awards thing when they got their rings and stuff. And I was like, I met Coach Wetcher, and I met him, and, so it's a nice experience. But, it's like, I think, having said that, I think more things should go towards music.
More money in the schools. And
yeah, when I was in high school, I went to Trumbull High School in Connecticut. We had a marching band with 125 people in it. Okay, they went to the Orange Bowl and played at the Orange Bowl and everything.
That's awesome.
Well, I go to McDevitt game, and they're playing Lower Dauphin at that time, and they got like 40 people, and the other school has like 50 people. And and it's like, I say, so if you like football, but support the music program, because I'm telling you right now, you're going to get more kids that are going to be music professionals than more kids going to the NFL.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, we all three of us here did play.
We did play. We would have been D1, but we got hurt.
Yeah, we got hurt.
Year, had injuries.
My knee, Zap's ankle.
Oh my goodness.
My neck's all messed up. But yeah,
we played high school football, and I was mediocre at best. Yeah. It was funny because the guy, I'm from Bridgeport, Connecticut. The guy that was our captain of our team is now the mayor of Bridgeport.
Oh, that's cool.
But when we were a football team that year, it was his senior year, we went 0-10.
Oh.
And so I have to go back on July 15th to perform at the Bijou Theater there. I haven't been there in 5 years. And so he's going to come out and see that. But my football career, I mean, I like it. I think it's really cool, but I never knew anybody that played on that kind of level before. So
well, we all really didn't play that much either.
No. We were just. I mean, Ricky Waters was there right before us, and then LaShawn McCoy was after us. So but they got some talent that goes through that school for sure.
For sure.
Rakai Nelson
went to Notre Dame. He was 2 years behind us. So McDevitt gets some players in there for sure. But
it's such a small school. And they're playing at a higher division, because technically I believe they would be like a 1A school.
It would be by enrollment.
And then they play at 4A. And and when they beat Altoona, that was just not Altoona,
Aliquippa, yeah.
For the state. That was just amazing. I mean, it was just really amazing. And so it was good to see at that level. Yeah, he's a good kid. And I wish him the best.
Were you always into fitness? Because I know you're pretty ripped. Were you always into weightlifting?
Well, I know, and I'll tell you what, I used to be about 260 pounds. I was overweight for the longest time. If I could have done it over again, I would have, because you lift for football when you're in high school, but what is that? It might be better now, but back then it was you just went through the motions and stuff. But I compete Masters division. I won Mr. Pennsylvania 2 years ago. And then, I'm getting ready to do another show July 29th in Jersey. I think that's the North Americans or something like that. So I'll do that. But listen, I don't play any softball. You got these guys that are on like 6 or 7 teams, and they're battering average, which is really douchey. Okay. It's like, dude, it's like, I'm batting 333. And I go, yeah. And tomorrow you're still going to be putting nuts and kisses over there in Hershey. So don't get so happy about your batting average.
Yeah, they're batting,
don't quit your day job.
They're batting 333. He's benching 333.
That's right. That's right.
What's funny, so I was like, because I had heart failure, and I'll tell you what, and when I was in the hospital, I was there for like 9 days. And my Chaz Wardle's my trainer. He's probably the best trainer there is. And he does a lot of judging for NPC, and he does goes to Olympia and all this stuff. And I wasn't taking any phone calls, and I wasn't letting anybody know I was in the hospital because I had shows that were scheduled, and I didn't want anyone to think I would be canceling.
Right.
So I didn't mention anything about it. But I remember Chaz calling me up, and he says, when are you getting out of there? And I said, I'm getting out of there on, it was like Sunday I was getting out. I'm getting out on Sunday. He says, all right, rest up Monday. I'll see you Tuesday. So I went in there Tuesday and we just tested the strength thing and everything. Cause he's like, listen, it's easy to sit there and do nothing and feel like you can't do anything, and and I said, listen, if anything ever happened to me, I want something to happen to me while I'm doing something. Okay. I don't want to be sitting in the chair and then just, I want to be doing something,
Active, yeah.
And, but yeah, so I take that relatively serious. But I beat up a relative for a Reese's peanut butter cup.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Let me tell you, those things are great.
Earl, we got about 6 minutes left. Because this is going to cut off. We got like a 40-minute line, I guess, on Zoom for whatever reason. But I wanted to ask you if you want to promote anything coming up, like shows, like people look. Now we have listeners all over, so anywhere you're going to be, anywhere you want to promote.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Let's see. Coming up, some of the bigger things are coming up on this Saturday night. I will be in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, Steel Stacks at the Art Quest. I'll be there on the 13th. I'll be in Chambersburg. If you go on my site, it's all there. At the Appel Center in York. And that one's almost sold out. So you might want to check that out. If you're in Connecticut, July 15th, the Bijou Theater there. Also Mickey's Black Box in December 1st, which is a really, really sweet gig there. And we might be filming that night. Awesome. But yeah, if you follow me, I'm telling you, you'll see everywhere that I'm going to go. Also, man, please just come out, get some laughs, man. It's like the hardest thing to do with this gig is like, you're not really like a household name. So every day it's promote, That's awesome. But I'm telling you, you're not going to be disappointed if you come out to see a show. I can actually guarantee that.
Awesome. Yeah. I actually listened a little bit today, your old bits like on Spotify and stuff. You were talking about softball team. You had a good bit about like how women can talk to their friends about issues and stuff, health issues. You're a big, stuff. He had a nice bit about like when the guys talk about it, you tell a friend something down below the waist, it ends up on the back of your jersey or softball team.
Yeah, it's actually what he says is like, women can tell each other anything about any kind of problem they have. If a guy tells his friend about a problem below his waist, or the last thing he wants to do is tell his friend about the problem below his waist, because that's going to be his new nickname. That's going to be the name they put on the back of his softball uniform, and so it's for me, I really don't do any relationship stuff either, because I don't know. My relationship life is relatively boring. Everyone has, my girlfriend hates when whatever. It's like, okay, we get that. So,
right.
No.
Well, definitely check out. I'm going to put all his info in our link on this episode. You can look down there, find links to all his social media, and then into the websites and whatever else. You guys got anything else in closing? No,
I think this was great as is. I mean, Earl, this was an absolute joy, just a pleasure. We look forward to talking with you again, and we certainly look forward to seeing you live and in person.
Coming to see you live.
We're definitely coming. I'm going to bring you a sweatshirt or T-shirt, and for doing this with us. So we'll have to find one that's going to work with our schedules, and we'll be looking for you.
Yeah, find it. Let me know if you're around May 20th, because I can grab you guys a pair of tickets for the Appel Center down there, and the May 20th. That's on the Saturday.
Awesome.
Let me know, and I'll be able to hook you up.
Awesome, nice. Man. I will shoot you a message on Instagram, and we'll keep in touch, man. I appreciate this so much. This is huge for us. Like I said, big fan of yours. Stand up, everything else you've done, and I appreciate it. So thanks again,
gentlemen. I appreciate the opportunity, and anytime you want to do it again, we're good.
Awesome, Earl.
Looking forward to it.
Awesome, my man. Thank you.
Awesome.
Have a great night.
Thank you.
See you. Yep.